Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Singularity Let's Play. This is Northstar. Hope you folks are well and taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. For those new to my channel, welcome. For those returning, welcome back. New folks, I am disabled with long COVID. I sometimes get distracted, get on tangents, don't always think the most quickly. I apologize for that. It's terrible. It's like a disease. And, a lot of people would prefer to believe it's not a real thing, to embrace all sorts of nastiness, and certainly to not do anything to, support. Well, there needs to be resources to help with this. Personally, I got screwed out of SSI by a rule in the mid-90s saying that SSDI. SSI should be able to get, but SSDI by a rule in the mid-90s, saying that jobs you work for a university while you're at least a half-time student don't count towards payroll tax contributions, which is ridiculous and unfair. That hurts people who go to undergrad later in life or go to grad school. You can't earn work credits before age 21 anyways. But so, someone who worked for a while and then went to college at, say, 21, which would be usually someone from a lower economic strata. Coincidence? I think not. Poor people might not be able to go to college as young as pampered middle class people can go right out of high school, or people like me who managed to claw their way through college and grad school, taking on a ton of debt in the process, but go right out of high school. But worked during grad school. I didn't get payroll tax contributions for that, even though I had coworkers who did the exact same job, were not students, or at least not half-time students, and were getting payroll tax contributions and getting work credits. And, I wasn't thinking about disability work credits at that age. I had, was young, thought I was invincible. I wasn't thinking I was ever going to get disabled. I wasn't even aware this system existed. So I kind of objected to the bullshit or searched for a different job off campus just so I could get the work credits. And then there was a period of unemployment. I was stuck in a rural area after grad school because family reneged on helping me, letting me come stay with them where there were actually jobs. There were no jobs in my field, which was biological research in a rural area. It's not like you find biology labs in the middle of rural Midwest. So, I got stuck there and ended up having to work low-wage jobs. And the first employer said, "Oh, you're overqualified. You leave the area as soon as we give you a job and you have some money saved up," which is true. That's exactly what I did. So they weren't wrong, but it's bullshit of, expecting that people can just, there should be resources to help fresh graduates to relocate. Some countries have that, like Spain has programs that provide wage subsidies to help people get jobs right out of college or grad school. Which, I mean, that's not directly, but employers are more willing to do relocation packages to get people who, are eligible for that program because they don't have to pay all their wages. Soviet Union, of all places, actually had a program that would relocate people fresh out of college or grad school. They could, they took like proficiency tests, and if they scored high, basically like on their final exams in college, then they could go wherever they wanted. If they scored low, they'd have to take whatever the government could match with them, or they could, relocate on their own. But although there were movement restrictions, sometimes moving between different countries, different republics, but if they were in the same one. So like the larger one was the Russian Socialist Federal Republic or whatever, but it had a different name at the time. They might not be able to move into the Ukrainian or the Kazakh SSRs, for instance, without the government relocation package. And with that, they could even go into Warsaw Pact countries, which a lot of people went to the Baltic states because they like the climate and there are a lot of jobs there, which actually drove xenophobia and racism among the natives, made them resent the Soviets because a lot of the brightest, hardest working young college students from the Soviet Union would go to like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. And this created this perception of, oh, our culture is being erased because you had these 20-somethings being relocated there. because it was a highly desirable location and they all wanted to go there, where they could be, near an ocean that wasn't always frozen. But yeah, if the Soviet Union could do it, then the United States could certainly have a system like that. Could certainly afford to help young people relocate after college. Why does it not do it? Because it's in the interest of the powerful to have desperate people. Although there's some inefficiency in the system where obviously like employers thought I was overqualified and weren't actually going to hire me. I'm not even sure how effective I would have been in just being part of the reserve army of labor at that point. I guess maybe they, still around driving down wages, and eventually they did hire me when I was really, really desperate for shitty working conditions. So yeah, I guess. But it was bullshit. Once they had the money saved up, I moved to where there were jobs in my field. But it turned out I'd been in my field too long. It took me a couple years working what shitty jobs they could in that area to save up enough money. And then I worked as an EMT after, so I wasn't able to get jobs in my field, so I retrained as an EMT. That took a little while to do the course, the accelerated one. And once it was done, I started working as an EMT, but then my goal had always been to become a physician. All this bullshit had sidetracked me and slowed me down. So I had a coworker who's like, if you ever want to make it, you're running out of time, so you should do a special master's program. It's what he was going to do. He recommended it, and I did it, and I got straight A's, and I was going to make it to med school, to an MD. Special master's programs are often in med schools, but not MD programs. I was going to make it into an MD. And then I got long COVID in my final semester, my special masters, and it screwed up my whole life. I ended up staying with family, ended up being an abusive situation I had to deal with. But that, it wasn't at first, but it became the family member I was staying with, which is too stressed out by the fact that, I couldn't work. And what personally stressed them out is they knew me when I was really smart. And I seemed much less smart with the way my brain fog affects me, and they got really upset about that. And then got nasty to me as if it was my fault that I was suddenly less brilliant than I used to be, instead of the virus's fault. Well, that's kind of how it started. And then there, was, anger, like me maybe dropping some insults because the person had been mistreating me recently, then them seeking revenge, and that they drove the abuse. But I'm not gonna pretend I didn't swear once in a while, occasionally raising my voice back at someone who was just tearing me apart and always tearing me down and being vicious. The idea that people should be perfect victims of abuse or anything else, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I feel bad about some of the things I said, but when I was being often sometimes out of the blue, yelled at and just being treated nastily, and sometimes even little physical abuse here and there. But usually that was after this person would escalate and then slap me or something. A couple different things. Slap me, pinch me when they pretty hard, and then pretend it was in jest. The slap, they couldn't use it pretend, didn't happen that often. But the fact that even once or twice crossed that line of me being treated that way was just, in the end, I lost my temper with this person and no longer staying with them. And now I'm on my own, and I only have enough savings for a while, so I'm hoping this YouTube channel will get to where I can earn money to supplement SSI when I run low on assets. You can only get SSI when you have really low assets, and I have to check. Someone said there may be a way to get SSDI even if the work credit bullshit. It involves getting rejected a bunch of times, and you can go to a administrative judge, and apparently they can override the rules. It sounded like. I'm not sure if that's actually true. I think this person might be wrong and told me this, but I can look into that. If so, though, it's going to mean a long legal battle to get SSDI, which would supplement SSI and make it so I could actually pay rent off that. And if I can find a job that I might be able to work a little bit here and there, I can't work enough to be what's considered substantial gainful employment. Can't support myself off work because I get really bad post-exertion malaise and get loopy if I spend too long doing anything. Like even my YouTube videos, I have to lie down sometimes for an hour or two between each video and not do too many videos in a day. I'm already probably overexerting myself today. But anyways, this is video number 3 or 4. I can't even remember. The day's already a haze. This isn't good. But I often do overexert myself a little. I've always been a very hard worker and I just can't stop. I used to be someone who would like pull all-nighters when I had to and such. Study really hard. I've always been a hyper-motivated person. And I constantly get dismissed. Assholes think I make it up or I'm lazy or something, so that probably drives me to work harder at this. Because people do not want to believe that just because I don't look physically, and actually, that's not even entirely true. Nothing obvious like missing a limb. My body weight is very low, which is like, oh, you should eat more. Like, I do eat, I don't absorb because my gastrointestinal tract my gastrointestinal system is messed up with long COVID. You get like IBS type symptoms. Or they see the weird rashes and they assume I'm just itching for no reason. It's like, no, I get these weird rashes, the long COVID. Or they see what's the other thing I get that's actually physically visible. Rashes, low body weight. Sometimes they can get very pale all of a sudden. People just assume things about that too. I'm trying to remember what bullshit excuse people have. But basically, people will have any sort of excuse when I slur my words because my brain isn't working right with the brain fog. They'll just think I was drinking or something, which is not true. I almost never drink. Like maybe twice in a year. That's like Christmas and Thanksgiving. Pretty much the only times I might have a glass of wine. At a family gathering or something, or with friends, like that's anyways, long COVID sucks, and we should have been prepared for it. The SARS virus, the SARS family of viruses, sorry, brains. A lot of brain fog right now. The SARS family of viruses has been around for a while, causing pandemics for a while. There was the SARS pandemic. Then there was the MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome pandemic, which was also a SARS virus. And then there's COVID, which is also a SARS virus. COVID is the third SARS family virus. And we didn't put tons of money into studying it after the first pandemic, like we obviously should have. And they all cause long COVID type symptoms. MERS had so few victims that there isn't really much research on it, but there's quite a bit of research on what's known as long SARS, which has the same symptom set as long COVID, because it's pretty much the same virus. There were a few well-documented cases, like a physician in Canada who got SARS treating patients with SARS, and they got long SARS. But it just wasn't enough. Whereas there's like 16 to 18 million Americans with some level of long COVID now. It was only a few tens of thousands of people who got long SARS in Canada and like a few hundred in the US. It wasn't nearly enough that it couldn't easily be erased and ignored. Because not that many people in the US or Canada got SARS. It didn't really spread to like it did in China and such, where there are a lot more long SARS cases. I'm convinced, though, if they hadn't even have the documentation of that, there would probably have been even more effort to erase long COVID. But what there hasn't been is a major effort in trying to develop a cure for it, which there should have been effort in trying to develop a cure for these type of things with long SARS, knowing that these viruses will keep causing pandemics and keep causing victims, and there should have been more research into understand the nature of the virus itself. So we would have been able to have a vaccine quicker than we did with COVID. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I studied viruses for my first master's. I got a master's degree, graduated. It's not like I dropped out or something. No, I graduated with a master's degree. Studied viruses for my thesis project, and even studied under a expert, like top expert, who advised the White House before on pandemics, and they specifically warned the class about SARS viruses being one of a family of viruses that could cause in future pandemics. We examined different candidates for future pandemics, like specific viruses of concern, and SARS viruses are one of them. Coronaviruses were one of them. SARS is actually the name of the syndrome, and coronavirus is the type of virus that causes it. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. Technically, that would include the family of symptoms that people got during an acute COVID infection. Although new names are come up with, because this was, well, honestly, because there was an attempt to erase the connection with SARS, because then people would have realized, hey, we could have prepared for this, we didn't, and the politicians would have gotten shit. The pandemic was heavily politicized. Anyways, I need this channel to succeed. So like, subscribe, comment. Sorry, this is maybe a little more boring than most of my Singularity videos, but I do have some ones where my commentary is a little more interesting, where I'm a little more alert, so go check those out. It's all on a playlist. Check out my other Let's Play series, and I hope you folks enjoyed. Till next time, take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Adieu, and best luck.